Hey guys, Boozor here. So just another YouTube episode on drafting and just my general thought process and analysis while I'm taking cards during an arena draft. So yeah, so you decide to play arena, you're gonna hop in. Let's hop in right to it. I don't know what classes we're gonna get right now, so let's see what we're gonna do today. So right now in this current meta, HS replay says Warrior has the highest win rate. I'm going to take Hunter because I've been playing Hunter very consistently, and same thing with Warrior, but I've been getting really good results with Hunter. So I feel like I can share some of my tips. So a lot of Hunter is not so much the draft, but the gameplay as well. So don't be discouraged if you have a good draft and you do badly with it. It is a pretty skillful class just because the hero power doesn't really allow you much flexibility. So if you make mistakes, the hero power is not really there to give you any other options. So it does take a little bit of refinement in your gameplay, but I mean that comes with experience too. But in the meantime, we'll go through the draft and see how we do. Alright, so we go with Hunter. So first pick, not the best picks right away. Oh, also I'm using Hearth Arena. I'm using Hearth Arena. It's a drafting assistant. So it displays the scores, it records your draft, and then you can go back and review your matchups and your picks if you like. It keeps also your stats on a web-based browser, which is pretty handy sometimes. I'm part of the team that comes together for the scores for Hearth Arena, so it's not so much to help me, but more so to track my drafts, so that's easy reference for other people. But I definitely recommend it. I mean, you're getting advice or second opinion, so definitely take a look at it if you guys are interested in an extra opinion when you're drafting. So based on these three picks, the scores, I mean, it's pretty obviously it's a 6-mana 5/5. It's not that good. There's not that many good beasts right now in the rotation. Like Pickrock is probably one of the few good big ones that you can really benefit off the reduction of 5. But this card is basically never good. Yeah, basically never good. And this card is super situational. It's even more situational than some of the more situational hunter traps. It can be good. I've won games off this, but I mean, it's super situational card. We just have to take this. Even at worst, it's a 6-mana 5/5, and it's a beast. I mean, occasionally you get the synergy. Okay, so Desert Spear is basically the best weapon available for a hunter. It might be it's actually the best card available for hunter based on win rates from HS Replay. It's better than Tyrant. It's better than Primordial Explorer. So these are some insane cards. If you strictly following by numbers, it's Desert Spear. Obviously, Tyrant and Explorer have their own merits, but this is a very easy Desert Spear here. This card wins you the early game against a lot of other temple matchups. So it beats Paladin single-handedly. It'll beat up rogues. It'll beat up a lot of the other classes that try to get on board. Okay, so you got two kind of uninspiring 4-drops. Alpha is almost really bad most of the time. You don't really want to pick too many secrets in arena because they don't really do anything. Yes, situationally they're awesome, but usually they don't do anything. This is a 4-mana 4/4. There's a little bit more Murlocs in this meta, like Hogsteed generates a 1/1 Murloc, but it's generally like 90% a 4-mana 4/4. So I think we're stuck with the Librarian. It's not a good 2-drop, and occasionally this is a negative side effect because usually you take minions with abilities. But I mean, the worst case scenario, like most often scenario, is a 2-mana 2/3, which is fine. In Hunter, usually I basically construct a deck based on what you're given. So right now we're just given these things. I'm not like looking for like 10 2-drops so I can be super aggressive because that's the way Hunter works. The thing with Hunter right now is that they have tools that make them able to play like a super long game. So you'll find some hunter drafts have a lot of cards left in their hand and they're playing total control against you, and they actually have some really good control tools if they have the value to back it up. So you definitely are not locked into a particular style with hunter right now. So you gotta keep that in mind, right? Okay, so like if Hunter was locked into that particular style, you could probably justify maybe taking the Raider over a Mark Shot. Mark Shot is great as a value generator. It's removal, so it has a bit of control. It gives you a spell in return, which is great value. This is a 2-mana 2/3. It's great for curve, great for pushing damage early. Synergize with the weapon, but obviously that's a small upside for Hunter. Usually you don't have weapons all the time, so but to me, it's a very easy mark shot. In this meta, you take the value when you can, and then you focus around the curve later on. Also, there's better curve drops than this, so it's a very easy mark shot for me. I'm not even considering the explosive trap. Like I said, secrets are not very good. They're super situational. And you never really want to take one over two much better options. So easy mark shot here. Alright, so like I was saying, some of the top cards we got in our deck already. Mr. Primordial Explorer. This is probably one of the best explorers you can get. It's good on its own. It's a 3-mana 2/3 poisonous, so it's a Cobra. But then you get the ability to discover a dragon. The dragon's obviously insane value usually, so you're gonna have a card that kills anything usually by itself, or make it very awkward for your opponent. And it discovers a dragon, a situational card that you could take a removal one or a heal or a big one, and usually those dragons kill a bunch of things. All right, so the game just shut down on me, so that feels kind of bad and sad. What's happening? Why is this? Why is this? Why is Blizzard like this? All right. I think I have to restart the game. Alright, sorry about that. Looks like the client crashed really quickly there. Anyway, so Primordial Explorer is going to give you a lot of value, and it's obviously, like, it's just better than the other two cards. So you take as many of these as you can, basically. These cards are insanely good. They make turns for your opponent very awkward, too. Okay, so these picks are a little bit more average. Like, Hyena looks fun and tasty, but honestly, it's mostly a 2-mana 2/2. You don't really need to get cute with Hunter, where you get a big setup with the Hyena and stuff like that. Cards like Unleash and Locust and whatnot. Spear, I mean, it works pretty well with Spear. So there's that. So, but you have to look at it as base value. It's a 2-mana 2/2 with some upside. It's a beast, so it has synergy in Hunter. The other pick is Ursa Tron. Ursa Tron is just the better 3-mana 3/3. This is a 4-mana 3/3. It draws you a mech. There's not that many mechs in this meta. There's some, but there's not that many. So I think at its baseline, it's just a 3-mana 3/3. If it always drew you a mech, it's great, but it's not. So at this point, I think you probably have to go with the Hyena just because we already have some base synergy with it, and it's probably more likely to benefit from additional synergies in the class. Cultist, it's a little bit of a win more card. It helps against AoE, but generally you need a pretty wide board for this to be very good. I think it's the most situational. It's the least statted as well, so it's probably going to be last here. It's probably closer than it looks, but I think it's not really going to be better than a 2-mana drop most of the time. It's a perceived threat too. Hyena is a perceived threat, so usually people overreact into this card. So I think we can take it here. Okay. So again, Cultist, it's a bit of an average, below average card. Usually we take probably the Aug Merchant. Arcane Shot deals 2 damage for 1. It's pretty solid, but this card is really good just to help control the board. You get the ping, you get the body, you get a minion that rushes afterwards as well, or any combination of all those things. So very, very solid one cost card. Arcane Shot, a little bit less flexible. It can only deal damage, although it can deal damage to face and minion. It's not as good as the minion, I think. So I think we'll just take the minion here. Alright. Alright, so 9 lives, benefits off Death Rattle cards. It's very synergistic. However, having synergistic cards in Arena, you probably don't want too many of these. Right now we don't have any Death Rattles, so drafting this, hoping to get Death Rattles, hoping to have the situation play out where this is actually good, is pretty bad. So we're not going to consider this card. Scavenger's Ingenuity is a little bit more consistent. You get more beasts. It's a draw. The buff is good. But it's pretty slow, and unless you're drawing a very high impact beast, it's probably not going to be very good most of the time. It's probably an average card. Safeguard, it's a 6-drop, it's a mech, so it would have synergized with the Ursa Tron, but you can't really draft around drafting mechs. Safeguard, while not super good, taunts are relevant for Hunter, since taunts protect your board against trading, allowing you to push face. So although this is not a strong taunt, it is 2 taunts, and it does protect you for 10 health, usually, if minions are going into it. The good thing about taunts is that it actually helps you against the Hunter versus Hunter matchup, where both of you are prioritizing face damage, trying to kill each other. So a taunt in the mid game, especially a good one like this, really messes up the game plan and swings the game in your favor when you start going towards the face. So I think this is a perfectly fine card here. 6 mana is a little clunky, but I think it's still better than these two. Okay, so on the surface, Leper Gnome looks okay. Like, you deal 2 damage, she synergizes with going face for Hunter, but a 1 mana 1/1 is generally pretty bad. So it's a pretty below average 1 cost card. So for me, it's between the Initiate, which is a 2 mana 2/2, which is fairish, kind of baddish. But the Death Rattle is solid. Like, it leaves you a 1/1 with the spell damage. The spell damage does have synergy with Hunter. And Death Rattle means it's a little bit of stickiness, so it's hard to remove with 1 minion or 1 spell. So anything left behind means you just deal extra damage with. So I kind of like this a little bit more. Frost Elemental hasn't been, it hasn't aged very well since it's a classic card. There's better cards with freeze effects now. It's very understated for 6 mana, so it's a pretty easy 2-drop here. Okay, so we got Abomination and Plate Breaker. So right away, I'd say Abomination is better than Plate Breaker because 1, it's a taunt. It's a bit understated, but it does deal 2 damage face. So this card is generally really bad. I'll explain why 5 mana cards with 5/5 stats are not very good right now. Basically, cards that counter this card is there's a lot of 5 cost damage cards right now, and anything that's only 5 health for 5 mana, this is the critical spot. Will get removed very efficiently unless they have very good effects. So if you play a 5 mana 5/5 no effect, this thing is very likely to get removed very efficiently, and then the board and the game will flip to your opponent's side with cards like Rusty, Evasive Worm, Arcanite Reaper, Blood Boil Brute. There's a lot of cards that deal 5 damage right now, and basically send the game into going the opposite way. So you think you play a 5/5 and you're good, and the guy opens up the game with a counter play, and then it's really hard to justify taking this. Like, I'd rather take this at that point because this card is situationally very good. Like, it taunts, protects your board, can kill a bad board if you fall behind, or deals 2 damage. So I would say this one's a better 5-drop, but this is a super premium 2-drop. It's played and constructed. It's a 2 mana 5/4. Often it just goes 5 face, and then it takes at least a little bit to kill it off. If you play it on turn 2, it's incredibly strong. Later in the game, it's less strong, but it also gives you a bit of randomness, so it can always target face. It's a 50% chance to go face, or a 50% chance to go into another minion, so it's still very strong. So it's an easy pick here. Okay, so like I said, this secret especially, I think this secret might be worse. It might be slightly better than Misdirection, but I think this one is pretty bad as well. So I'm not going to get on the secret train here. So it's between the 3-drop or the Silverhand Knight. A Silverhand Knight's 6/6 worth of stats for 5 mana. It's generally okay, but I feel like right now the 4/4 stat line on turn 5 just really doesn't do enough. It doesn't do enough. It gets removed relatively easily. Like I said, there's a lot of things that do 5 damage that flip the board. Although you're left with a 2/2, the 2/2 doesn't react very well against 5 and 6 drops. Like basically when this card is played. You could argue that the 2/2 goes face. The leftover body goes face, so it's actually worth a little bit more than like a 5/5. So for sure, this card is better than a 5 mana 5/5, for sure. But how much better? It's probably not that much better. Crusader is a pretty solid 3-drop. Usually, you consider this like a 3 mana 3/4. Like if it hits like a 3 mana 3/4, the shield with the shield, it basically goes down to a 3/1, which is the equivalent of a 3 mana 3/4. Sometimes this card is worse. Sometimes it's better. Like for example, if you play this into like Desert Spear, it's definitely way worse than a 3 mana 3/4. If you use this to hit a 5/5, it's way better than a 3 mana 3/4. So it's hit or miss. But I mean, like, I'd rather take a smaller card that is good than a larger card that is so-so / good. So I mean, the knock against this is that Hunter has tons of 3-cost cards, so you don't want to jam up your 3s. But I think we're 1/3 into the draft. I'm okay with taking this. We don't have any 5s yet, but I feel like this is a better card than this right now. It's just a little bit harder to deal with. Same situation here. Explosive Trap is pretty bad secret, very situational. It does do 2-face, but it's not as good. And then Priestess of the Loon is understated, and the effect is pretty bad. Felmaw is one of the best 2-drops possible for Hunter. You want this card, easy. Similar spot. You don't want to take the 5/5 if you can help it. This card's generally pretty bad. So Sun Cleric is actually a decent 3-cost card. Synergizes with the spear, the tokens. So it's a pretty solid 3. Pushes extra damage. I don't want to take another 6-cost card in this deck that isn't a premium aggressive card. So although this card is decent, I like it in the mirror. Like I said, taunts are good against other hunters because it forces them to go into them. It heals you, this one, which is nice. So it kind of lets your board do its thing and go face. But I don't want to put another 6-cost card that's not premium. Right now we have 2 not so premium 6-cost cards. So this card's out. Misdirection again. It's another bad secret that we don't really want in our deck. So I think we're stuck with the Ogre Magi. Like, it's a 4 mana 4/4, which is pretty it's kind of understated. It's average. It has synergies with spell damage. Right now we only have 1 spell, but we can definitely pick up other spells as well. So yeah, this card has situational upside. It's good. It's a body as well. All right, so this card's really bad now. Yeah, it's really bad now. This card's again a 4 mana 4/4 with very limited upside, so it's a pretty easy kill command. Kill command can be 5 damage face, can kill a minion. We don't have that many beasts to make it work. We have 2 beasts plus the spear, so it's, you gotta have to think about this when to use it properly. So, but it's definitely the pick here. Okay, Snipe, another secret that's not that great. It's draftable. Like, these secrets are mostly draftable, but they're not great. Gnomish Inventor, 4 mana 2/4, pretty understated. Drawing a card in Hunter generally is not worth that much because your deck is pretty small. So draw cards are not really that good. You want to generate cards or discover cards. So it's a pretty easy Scorpion. Scorpion's like a ultra premium card in this rotation right now. It's effectively a 4 mana 5/2 with stealth that kills something, and it can deal 2 damage to the face if you need it for lethal. So it's a very easy pick here. Okay. Okay. You can go a couple different routes here. You can take the 2-drop, and that really like solidifies your early game. You can really solidify your early game. You could even take the Og Merchant as an extra 1 mana with the ping. We're not like swimming with pings. We have a spear and a scorpion in our early game. So the first 4 turns, I'm looking at the first 4 turns. We have a scorpion and a spear, and that's about it. And another Og Merchant. So it definitely warrants another one if we can go this way. We can also go with the Dawn Crusader. It's one of the better 5-drops because it doesn't die to the effective removal cards right now because of the Divine Shield, even though it's slightly understated, but the Divine Shield makes this card a very decent 5-cost card without any ability. So I think you can probably go with the Crusader here. It's a little bit more of a mid-range threat. You need to think of ways to end. How is this deck going to end games? So is it going to end games with 2 and 3 mana minions that deal 2 and 3 damage each? I think in this rotation, it's unlikely to happen. It's unlikely to happen that you get such a huge jump on your opponent. These are really good because they're basically like mid-range bodies, but they come out really early, so it definitely makes the deck a little bit stronger than it looks right now. But I do like this 5 as a premium. It helps when these cards don't cooperate and start attacking random things. You can definitely make arguments for the other 2, but I'm going to go with the Crusader here. We also don't have a 5-drop, so it kind of fits in kind of perfectly too. Alright, so Hecklebot's pretty bad. The stats are good, but the battle cry is just awful. You never want to draft this card. It's game losing when it comes out, and generally doesn't go your way most of the time. Even if you pull out like a 2-drop, it's not really that good. 2 or 3 attack minion, it's not very good. So, and that's the low end of it. The high end is it pulls out like, you know, a 10 mana Colossus and you just lose on the spot. This card's okay, not really for Hunter, but I mean if you're desperate for a big guy, then sure. But I think we still have, you know, a third of the draft to go. We can definitely pass this for something. Multi-shot's perfectly good here. We actually don't have that much removal or initiative. Initiative basically means like things that interact with the board from your hand. So multi-shot's pretty good here. I'm happily taking it. 3 kind of baddish cards again. Fresh Scent is okay when you have beasts. We're seeing on 3 beasts plus the weapon. I mean, you could take it. It's good when you have the beast. So it comes down to the likelihood of using the beast and so forth. I think it's like this is similar, right? Similar. It's cheaper. It's more of a burst card. This card is burst too, but you can use it for value trades and whatnot. Or a 3 mana 3/3. We don't have any mechs. I guess we have 1 mech, but you're not going to count this. You have basically a 3 mana 3/3. So is this card better than a 3 mana 3/3? I don't know. It's hard to say. In Hunter, you really want to play stuff, non-conditional, push damage, pressure your opponent. So having a card that requires a very specific type of card from your deck is hard for me to justify. Especially since it's basically a do nothing card if it doesn't do anything. Like you have a bad like a average below average card that doesn't do much, but it's still something you can play, versus a card that potentially does nothing if you don't have the condition, which is a beast. If you do have the beast, it's an excellent card. So it's kind of hard to say. I mean, a 3 mana 3/3, like, does this deck need something like that? Like, it doesn't really. Like, we have like Crusader, Explorer. We have good amount of 2s, which factor into how often we need like 3s and 4s. We have good amount of 2s. I mean, we don't really need it for curve, so it's possible that you consider this card for like a high-end potential situation. So I think I'm probably gonna go with the Fresh Scent. It's a little bit more situational, but the upside is quite high. And we generally don't need like just a bad 3-drop, so I'm just gonna go with this card. Alright, so this is actually okay. Like I said, this card is not that good. We don't have any secrets. This card is a mech, which actually is surprising because we've been offered so many mechs so far. But the stat line is not very good. The synergy is obviously very rare and infrequent. So, and Hogsty is an excellent 2-cost card, deals 2 damage when it comes out, leaves a Murloc behind, and we have another card that synergizes with the card that we just took. So it's a pretty easy Hogsteed. Okay. Okay, so you have a healer, which is kind of okay. I'm not opposed to heal in Hunter just because you're not always in front, and sometimes you need to catch up. And if Hunter falls behind, like having a little bit of heal is okay. But I don't know if it's going to be better than the Assassin here. I think both are pretty close. I'm going to pass on the Fellwing because generally, like, yes, it's a 2-mana 3/2, but honestly, a 2-mana 3/2 just doesn't do that much nowadays. So it's like, okay, fine. We can take a 2-mana 3/2 or a card that heals us, which potentially saves us from lethal or saves a minion from a trade, or you can take a 5-cost, basically like unblockable, untradeable for damage. So I think in Hunter, like I think the Assassin has a little bit of upside. It's a bit weak for its mana cost. 4 attack on turn 5 is generally pretty weak. It never survives a trade, but it is like it's basically untargetable, 4 damage. So in Hunter, that is valuable. It has a way for you to win in like super late games, like especially in top deck situations where you're off the board and you need something. So I think this card is probably fine. It's also a 5-drop too. Okay, so explosive trap again. It's like these secrets show up non-stop, so you just easily avoid them most of the time. So it's a 4-mana 3/2. Upside is it's a 3-mana 3/3. It's not enough. A Deadly Shot's excellent card. Destroys a random enemy minion. It's good against single large minions. Like it's good at killing taunts and stuff like that. Don't be afraid to use these cards on like very high nuisance like minions, like even just a single minion that gets it out of the way so it doesn't kill off your board. Don't be afraid to use these, because if you wait to use them on the perfect minion, you might have suffered so much damage from the minion you should have killed, that it doesn't matter anymore. So it's a pretty easy pick here. Just don't get too greedy with it. That's what I mean. Alright, so we got Orc and Whelp. Orc's actually quite a solid 3-drop. If, for example, if Rogue puts their dagger face into this, it costs them 3 health. I think we can still pass on a 3. I want to build up my late game because I feel like there's no other way for us to win. Like if you look at our game, we have 7 picks to go. If you look at our deck, we actually don't have too many ways to win outside of having a good start. If we don't have a good start, there's no real way we can win. We have Explorer for some discovery, some value, Mark Shot for some value. Usually the spell is a bit weaker, but the dragon is good. So we have like 2 cards, and then we have like a 5 attack, 4 attack, 5 attack minion at the top. The 6-mana 5/5 is not going to cut it for most games, right? So unless we get a really good start, we're probably not going to win most of the games. So I think I want to build up my mid game a little bit. I think our early game is very strong. So I think I'm going to go with the Whelp. The Whelp's, it fits the 5-cost card. It is a 5/5, so it can be abused by the very common removal cards, but it does draw you a card. Drawing you a card, I mean, it's usually low value, like even drawing a 2-drop. But it does draw you stuff. So having stuff in Hunter keeps your game going, keeps your game alive, keeps your hero power ticking, like keeps your turns getting filled up, so then people can actually like try to stop you. Like, maybe you pull you draw like a 2-drop, you play it and they start trading into your 2-drop, but then now you get an extra turn of hero powering. So it's generally like it's fine. I mean, if I didn't have a 3-drop, the Orc's a decent 3, but I like the Whelp here just for some draw. It is a 5/5 as well, so it does deal a little bit more damage than like a 1 or a 3 attack minion. This is an interesting pick. Generally, I take the Valfiend without really thinking, but because we have 2 of the Felmalls, a 3rd Imprison 2-drop might be a little bit clunky. Maybe we should consider the Freezing Trap here. It's an excellent trap. This one's one of the best or better traps here. I'm really thinking to go with, like, just looking at the early game, right? We don't really want to play this on turn 2. We can play this is pretty weak, and this is okay. So we have 5. 5. 5, and then turn 3 is spear, removal, explorer. Yeah, I think it's probably just the Valve Fiend, unfortunately. I think we can use one more early game card. Freezing Trap's really good when you have the board. Like, it's really good when you have the board and there your opponent is trying to get on the board to stop you. And then this basically just stops them. But I think the Valve Fiend's a little bit too good to pass, especially since we're not like crazy early game. If we have more 3-drops, we maybe consider. Also, Valve Fiend is good with Cleric. You can get the buff off right away too. So I think I'm okay with the Valve Fiend here. Alright. So you have a pretty bad 3-drop. This is like really bad. Stat line, the base stat line is very weak, and then the effect is almost very irrelevant because this card only triggers on a 1 or a 2 attack hit. And then it's a 5-2 or 5-1. It's not that great. This card is a 1-mana 1-2. We don't have any Murlocs, so again, not that great. But we have a very good 4-drop here, Bone Wraith, 4-mana 2-5, Taunt. A little bit of a weaker stat line to start, but the Reborn is very good. So basically 2 taunts in 1. Very good. Like I said, it protects your board, blocks them out, blocks your opponent out from trading off your board so you can push more damage. So easy pick here. We also need some 4s, playable 4s. Okay, so 2-mana 3-2. I think we're good on 2-drops. We have some very good 2-drops as well. The both Imprison ones are excellent. If you can always have one of these in your opening hand, you're good. I think I'm going to pass on the Raptor. It is a beast, but so is this. The Panther is actually okay. It fits our turn 3, which we don't have too many of. It's stealth. Again, it's sneakable damage, so you can sneak the damage in. And then it synergizes with the Fresh Scent, so you never know when this thing's just going to be a huge thing and then just smash you in the face. So I think it's pretty good here. Snipes, again, a pretty weak conditional secret that people play around. Very interesting pick. So it's not this card. This card is generally pretty bad. It's a 3-mana 3-7 that summons 3/1/1. So the 1/1s, giving the 1/1s to your opponent means the 1/1s can attack first. Even if they all trade into here, it's a 3-mana 3/4 at best. At worst, it's at worst you're dead because you gave them 3/1/1s. So I mean, it's just really bad. So this pick, it comes down to Cable Rat or Corruptor. It's not a great Corruptor deck. By Corruptor deck, I mean having small tokens and whatnot for a Corruptor. Like, we don't have like super small tokens to transform. Like, this is good. The Spear is good. This is good. Not too many. We have a little bit, not too many. This card's a pretty weak stat minion, but it gives you a Lackey, which is insanely powerful. Hard to say here. I don't know which one I really want. I think I want the Corruptor. Just a little bit of extra removal. It's really good. You transform it. You can save a minion too. So if you have like a 2/3 and then you trade it, it's not a 2/1. You turn it into a 4/4. So there's some benefit to this card for sure. Yeah, let's go with the Corruptor here. Second one's still probably okay, but I think I'm gonna maybe pass on it here. I think the deck's a little bit too clunky for 2. We're still looking for like 1. Like, we have 2 picks left. If our last 2 picks are 2 big things, we'll be happy. I think here we take the Divine Shield Aug Merchant. It's really good at preserving your board. It's really good at trade ups. Like, we can hit it on the Explorer, you can hit it on the Scorpid, you can hit it on the Felmoz. Just really good. It's also a 1-cost card and it's a ping as well. Okay. Usually I'd say it's probably Corsair. Nah, it's probably not. Corsair's pretty below average in Hunter. It's 4-mana 3/3 most of the time. So you have 2 kind of like deal damage cards. I think I like the Nightblade a little bit better. Like, the body's at least a little bit more sizable. So like, if you play this on turn 7, it's still a 4/4 as opposed to like playing this as a 2/1. And this damage is immediate, and this damage is not. So I think I like Nightblade a little bit more than the Sand Trooper here. It's like I said, for Hunter, this card is decent. And our last pick is something that's very interesting. This is a very interesting pick, actually. Very interesting pick. So on one hand, you have one of the best one-cost cards available for Hunter. Transforming your hero power to target minions is a pretty huge deal. It helps you control the early game. Scorpid is the best neutral card available from the new set. So also another great card is sneaking damage in because it's a 5/2 stealth. You can just go face. It's also a beast too, which synergizes with Fresh Scent, Kill Command, as well as the Weaver. Swarm of Locusts is actually a card I like, but it's probably going to be last place here. It's a good card, I like it, but it's going to be last place here against these two premium cards. To be honest, I think it's probably Scorpid. It gives our deck a little bit more of a threat type minion. Like 5 attack minion is very threatening in Hunter. It deals 2 damage by itself already, so you can go face with it. It's a beast, so it's synergized with the Weaver, and the Fresh Scent makes these cards a bit better. Also, the knock against the Sharpshooter is like, yes, we can play it on turn 1, but we have a lot of these 2-drops that we definitely want to play. We definitely want to play the dormant ones. Because we don't want to delay these any further. Often you coin them out together. You can coin one on turn 1 and then play the next one on turn 2. Like, you just want these out right away because they have so much stats, they just dominate the early game. So I think for me it's going to be an easy Scorpid here. Like, this deck's actually pretty interesting. It's not very heavy, but it does have a lot of very aggressive tendencies. I think it's more traditional face type Hunter. You definitely have to manage your resources because we don't have that many resources. So over trading with this deck would be a disaster. We don't have a Hunter's Pack or anything like that. We have 1 Explorer, 1 Mark Shot, and that's about it for value. So you definitely have to manage your resources with this deck. The curve is almost a textbook curve for an aggressive deck. We just have a couple 1-drop short, but almost a textbook deck for aggressive build archetype. Kill Command, good for reach. It would have been nice to get like a Pickrock at the top to get more 5 damage reach, but we do have a Nightblade. I mean, it's a cheaper Pickrock type card. Not really, but it's, you know, it's kind of cheaper. It's cheaper. It does damage to the face. So yeah, I think it's like, I think it's gonna be pretty good. Like, I'll play it, but I think it's gonna be pretty good. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned a little bit about how I feel about Hunter, and I hope that this makes you gives you some extra things to think about when you guys are drafting. So that's the aim of the game, right? All right, guys. See you guys next time. Have a great one. Take care.